When it comes to international football, some away games are just harder than others. Brazil and Argentina are famous for their atmospheres, as are countries in the Balkans and Eastern Europe. But for decades, one of the toughest trips in international football has been the iconic Azteca, aka the Mexico City Stadium in this current World Cup. But is it just one big hostile stadium, or is there more to it? Let's find out. The Azteca has some history. Not only was it the venue of Brazil's 4-1 win over Italy in the 1970 World Cup final where Pelé shone his brightest, it also hosted Argentina beating West Germany 3-2 in the '86 final. It was also home of the infamous Hand of God versus England in the quarterfinals of that same tournament. But not only that, it's an absolute fortress for Mexico. In 60 years of World Cup qualifying at the Azteca, Mexico have only lost twice. They have a World Cup qualification game record since 1966 of 43 wins, 10 draws and 2 losses. That's a win rate of 78.2%, and they are unbeaten in 96.4%. At the time of recording, taking into account the win over South Africa during this ongoing World Cup, Mexico's World Cup home record during the finals at the Azteca since 1970 reads 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. That sole defeat came to Italy in 1970 in the quarterfinals. Italy eventually became finalists against Brazil. That kind of home record will have a psychological effect on any opponent, and expectation often becomes reality. Sometimes the hardest part of playing at the Azteca starts well before kickoff. Mexico City is 2,240 meters above sea level. Playing at altitude means thinner air. Thinner air means less oxygen. Less oxygen in the air drastically reduces aerobic capacity, causing visiting athletes and teams to fatigue much faster than they would at sea level. Sprinting and recovery become harder, and it doesn't matter if you do plenty of cardio or don't smoke or vape, you're fucked either way.
What kind of place is this?
One great example of a top-tier athlete shitting the bed at this altitude is then UFC heavyweight champion Cain Brown Pride Velasquez. He didn't take the time to adapt to Mexico City ahead of UFC 188 and became a breathless punching bag for Brazil's Fabricio Verdum, losing his belt as a result. Mexico's opponents, especially during the quick turnaround of tournament qualifiers, have little time to adapt to the environment. The World Cup finals record indicates that opponents can fare better when they've adjusted to the altitude, but it's still a strong record, indicating that it's not altitude alone that is behind it. It's altitude plus 80,000 fans, plus travel, plus the formidable reputation of the Azteca itself. The Azteca isn't one big advantage, it's multiple smaller advantages all stacked on top of each other. Mexico uses their natural environment to their advantage, and so did their main regional rivals. Starting in 2001 ahead of the World Cup in 2002, the USA deliberately started hosting World Cup qualifiers versus Mexico in sub-freezing temperatures in Columbus.
We come to you live from the most partisan arena the U.S. has. A chilling reception greets regional dynasty Mexico at sold-out Cruz Stadium in Columbus, Ohio. 24 degrees and the temperature is plummeting. Welcome to the Cold War soccer style.
It worked, with the USA winning 2-0, starting the Dos a Cero, or 2-0 era, where the USA routinely beat their arch-enemies 2-0 until the mid-2010s. The measures the USA took were seen as a direct response to the Azteca and all the advantages Mexico had playing there. And Canada's at it too, trying to freeze out the Mexicans. Canada famously hosted Mexico in Edmonton, Alberta during the 2022 qualifiers. The city's Commonwealth Stadium, dubbed the Azteca for this game, saw Canada earn an important 2-1 win thanks to a Kyle Larin double, and the -9 degrees Celsius weather, of course. If Mexico wanted teams to suffer up in the gods, the USA and Canada decided that Mexico should suffer in the snow in return.
Oh wow, it's a little chilly out there. Let's turn up the heat. Now let's wait for it to heat up. No seas mamón, güey, no seas mamón, güey. Caliéntate, güey, caliéntate, caliéntate, caliéntate. Y va dulce.
Mexico isn't the only country using height to its advantage like a looks maxer. Bolivia takes the concept of altitude to the extreme, with its national stadium in La Paz at over 3,500 meters above sea level. And their South American counterparts Ecuador are also in on the act, with its national stadium in Quito almost 3,000 meters above sea level, even higher than the Azteca. South Americans are a fiery bunch and they do love a row, so there was an almighty one about altitude back in 2007. Players from Brazilian side Flamengo required bottled oxygen during a 2007 Copa Libertadores match versus Real Potosi in Bolivia at an altitude of almost 4,000 meters above sea level. Complaints from Flamengo and others in Brazil directly contributed to FIFA introducing a ban on international games exceeding altitudes of 2,500 meters in that same year. Bolivia and Ecuador were very vocal in their protests of this ban, saying it was discriminatory against high-altitude nations. Even Maradona joined in on the protests, playing in an exhibition game in La Paz to prove that football could be played in those conditions. If you're interested, Maradona's team beat the one led by then Bolivian President Evo Morales 7-4. Following a formal protest from CONMEBOL, FIFA appealed the ban a year later. And whether Maradona's game had anything to do with it is anyone's guess. Does Mexico gain an unfair advantage from the Azteca? Maybe. But international football's always been about using what you've got. From local players to players from the diaspora, to hot and humid conditions to freezing cold temperatures. Mexico's altitude, atmosphere, and one of football's most revered stadiums in the Azteca. And for nearly a century, it's helped turn an ordinary home match into one of the toughest away days in world football. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please chuck us a like and a subscribe, and a comment too, just to help with the algo. It'll be very much appreciated. Cheers.